And on the line with us is Carl Higbie. Carl is a conservative Trump supporter, founder and president of the George Washington Leadership Foundation, former Navy SEAL and author of Enemies, Foreign and Domestic, A SEAL's Story. His website, gwleadershipfoundation.com. You can tweet him at Carl Higbie, Higbie. And Carl, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me on, Thom.
I'm sorry?
I said thanks for having me on again.
Oh, yeah. You sound like you're talking through a tin can. Do we have a bad speakerphone or something? Or
No, I got you on my my handset. Should be okay.
Ah, okay. All right. That sounds a whole lot better. Donald Trump has suggested that he wants to be able to more easily sue newspapers for libel. He wants our libel standards to be those of Great Britain, which does not have a First Amendment and does not protect the freedom of the press. And I'm trying to figure out how anybody could support that position.
Well, I think let's be clear here. What Donald Trump wants is he wants the ability as, like, let's say you were to slander me in public. I could come after you and potentially sue you for, making up a story or a fact or something that causes me in some way that I can prove damages. Now, I think absolutely you should be able to go after somebody, or even more importantly, go after a media institution for some type of slander. I mean, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Right. That's the law.
Stand.
Right.
Yeah,
That's the law.
Exactly.
And
so
you can't intentionally misrepresent facts. I mean, this was litigated before the Supreme Court in 1964. The case was New York Times Company versus Sullivan, and they made it very clear: you can sue a newspaper. Donald Trump can sue the newspaper. Donald Trump can sue me. Donald Trump can sue anybody he wants. First of all, I mean, he may not win, but I mean, he could sue and win if he can demonstrate that there was actual malice and disregard for the facts. And so that's the law right now. It sounds to me like what you're saying is that the law right now is just fine with you and Donald Trump. But why does Donald Trump want to change that if it's all just fine?
Well, no, he just wants to make sure that those rights are still there for us to be able to protect ourselves.
No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying he wants to change the law. How does he want to change the law? I don't get it. Here's his quote was, he said, and I quote, I'm quoting Donald Trump, We're going to open up our libel laws. We're going to have people sue like you never got sued before. We're going to open up our libel laws so when they write purposely negative and horrible and false articles, we can sue them and win lots of money. Now, the false articles part of that, if somebody writes a false article, knowing it to be false, they can be sued right now. Right. So so I think we can extract that word and just say what Donald Trump is really saying is he wants to open up and quoting him, using his words, just taking out the word false, open up our libel laws so when they write purposely negative and horrible articles, we can sue them and win lots of money. Is that the kind of country you want to live in? I mean, if you do, I'm sure Somalia would love to have you.
No, look, what he says, he didn't say he wants to change the law. He says he wants to open up the laws. He wants to allow people within the laws we have.
How do you open up a law without changing it?
No, he's opening the opportunity for someone to actively engage in it. I mean, look, the fact is, it's like little old me, Carl Higbie, trying to take on, let's say New York Times, just for an example, is going to be very difficult. But you have to open up a method for me.
Not if you have a cause for a complaint. If you can demonstrate that the New York Times lied about you intentionally with the intent of harming you, which, if you really believe that to be true, should not be all that hard to prove, you can take them to court and you can win.
Oh, sure, but the resources it's going to require to do that, a lot of people don't have that.
If you've got a strong case, there's probably no shortage of lawyers who would defend you, particularly given that you're conservative, Carl. There's a massive and very, very well-funded right-wing infrastructure. I mean, talk to I'm forgetting his name, the guy who runs Citizens United.
Oh, yeah, I'm drawing.
I know you know who I'm talking about. I mean, he can connect you with a dozen conservative lawyers. There's probably 100 conservative lawyers who would defend you pro bono or for a piece of the action. I mean, there's foundations here that would do it.
Yeah, but how many people know about those avenues? Look, it needs to be more accessible for a little guy to go after a big guy, and that's exactly why they're going. Donald Trump said he would block the AT&T Time Warner merger.
So when did Donald Trump, a billionaire, one of the most recognized figures in the world, when did he become the little guy?
But that's the issue. He wants to open them up because
he wants to be able to sue. This is not about little guys being able to sue. If Carl, if you had never been in the public eye, if you didn't have come on programs like this, I mean, arguably the work that you do makes you, like me, a public figure, and so it's we both have we have a certain level of protection, but we also have a certain level of liability that's associated with that. But if you're saying if you were not Carl Higbie, if you were John Higbie, who has never done anything in public other than have a Facebook account that his family looks at, and the New York Times wrote a nasty article about you, you could sue in a heartbeat.
Yeah, you could, but at the same time, you're still going to take immeasurable resources, even to garner the attention to get somebody to start covering your
You could send a letter to them, and they would issue a retraction. I mean, the New York Times knows the kind of liability they're facing. That's why they don't do that.
Look, Thom, you and I have been in the media industry a very long time. It's very difficult to get someone to put a retraction if they don't feel that they did something wrong. If they're taking on the little guy, look, they're absolutely not going to print a retraction unless they know that there's some sort of liability to it.
Okay, Carl, it seems to me like we're like dancing around this without, it's like trying to grab Jello here. Yeah. What specifically is the change in the law that Donald Trump is calling for that you agree with?
Look, at what point did Donald Trump say he wants to change the law? I'm curious.
My understanding of the phrase "open up our libel laws" means literally change our libel laws, open them up, make it so that more people can be sued under them. And I think I can make a strong case that that's exactly what he meant, because he said the sentence continues, so when they write purposely negative and horrible articles, we can sue them and win lots of money. Now that says to me he wants to change the law. So what, how do you want to change the law?
So the key word there is, you said your interpretation is that he wants to change the laws.
I think any reasonable person would interpret it that way.
No, I think he wants to open up the pathway so people can actually use the laws.
Okay, so how do you do that?
You make it more accessible. You make it very simple. I mean, you start holding these people accountable.
How?
You actually maybe for an instance say, look, if you're part of this suit, you make some sort of make some sort of government assistance that is going to help you go against that major publication, because it's just like
Carl Higbie, noted conservative, is calling for a big government solution, that the big government should fund anybody who wants to sue a newspaper. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe that's the case. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I'm not the one running for president, but I can tell you that what I think is you need to make it easier for the little guy, or for medium or big guy, to go after
or billionaire named Donald Trump. I mean, because that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Well, look, if the case is that someone has gone out and said, written a terrible piece about somebody where they've taken things way out of context or misled, it's very hard to get them to print a retraction. We need to make it easier for them to go after them and hold the media accountable. Because, look, this election, far and beyond, has been slanted.
So it's not enough that our media is owned by 6 corporations, 90% of our media. We also want to shut down what they can say.
Not shut it down at all. We want to hold them accountable.
Okay. Carl, hang on just a second. Let me just plug you. Hang on.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Carl Higbie, you can tweet him at Carl Higbie, Higbie, and the website is gwleadershipfoundation.com. Carl, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Thom.
Good talking. We'll be back.